What's up, Prototype Nation? This is Yuri, aka Russian Prototype. It's Saturday, July 31st. You know what time it is. It's time for another live stream. I'm so happy and excited to be here. Today is a special day because, well, there are a couple of different reasons why. Number one, we are actually streaming to three different platforms. In addition to my beloved Prototype community on YouTube, we are streaming to Facebook and LinkedIn. So shout out to everyone on Facebook and LinkedIn if you're watching it live. Appreciate you tuning in. And of course, I want to talk about my beloved community, my YouTube community, the Prototypes, where I officially reached 1,000 subscribers. I know we celebrated slightly prematurely last Saturday. We were a little bit short, but this Tuesday, the channel officially reached 1,000 subscribers. So big milestone. Thank you once again to everyone who's been part of this channel in any capacity. I appreciate you very, very, very much. A few things pertaining to new features on the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see a couple of features such as super chats and super stickers. So this is the ability to support the channel. If you so incline, you should be able to do this live. There's a little $sign underneath, so we can test it out. Hopefully it works. I don't know. I haven't tested it yet. So another thing I want to make sure that you all know is that in order for this live stream to be as good as it possibly can be, you need to be CIA, okay? Which means you need to comment, interact, and ask. Believe me, this is much better to be in this category than being in the category of ghost watchers. Ghost watchers are individuals who are just taking advantage of the content, who are consuming the value, who are sitting there behind their monitors or screen phones and who are not interacting, not giving likes, and not asking any questions. Don't be a ghost watcher, be CIA. Comment, interact, and ask during today's live stream. I want to make sure I acknowledge individuals who are watching live. So let's see who's in the house today. Let's see who's in the house today. We have Agatha in the house, Indonesia, I believe. This is, by the way, this is very international community. We have people from all over the world, which is another point that makes me super, super proud. So Agatha from Indonesia, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you. We have Heather from Michigan, United States. Hello, thank you for being here, Heather. I appreciate you. We have Felicia, Alabama, United States. Hello, thank you so much for being here. We have Sam in the house from UK. He's not the only person from UK that's going to appear on live stream today. Appreciate you being here, Sam. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to see you. We have Strong Ballerina in the house. Also USA, Prototype Nation. Here we go. Thank you for being here, Strong Ballerina. And we already have the first super chat from Heather. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. That is very, very kind of you. Thank you so very much. So if you're watching live, be sure to interact with us. Be sure to comment. Be sure to ask questions. And let's make it a memorable one. So today's topic is self-love, internal peace, and mental health. I think these are just incredibly huge topics of discussion in USA in particular, but also I think in the world at large. So I'm super excited for today's talk and to have today's guest to join me and to have this conversation. I'm going to bring him in just a moment, but just to give everyone a quick backstory, I connected with my today's live's guest through Sam in the audience. So I want to give a quick shout out to Sam. Sam and I met on Clubhouse app, and Sam introduced me to today's live guest. And this just goes to show, never take networking and connecting with other individuals for granted, because you never know what it may lead to. So appreciate you, Sam. And with that being said, let me go ahead and bring today's live guest on. Shez, how are you doing today, sir?
Blessings. I'm very well. Thank you. How are you, brother?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. First of all, thank you for. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to look into the camera, then I can't see you, but we'll make it work.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to take this thing off really quickly so I think I give a little bit more space. Here we go. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate that. First, I wanted to start out simply by, well, let me back up. So just a quick overview of what you do, I guess, from my perspective. And then obviously you'll be able to tell the story from your perspective. But you all about self-love, you're all about internal peace, you're all about mental health, the topics that we really want to be able to dive in deeper today.
Sure.
And you caught my eye, your content caught my eye when I was looking at your Instagram, at your TikTok. Your TikTok is on fire, by the way. You're killing the TikTok game. So really positive message, really thoughtful message, and something that I think that people can benefit from to a great degree today, given everything that we go through as a society, right? So first of all, I wanted to find out from your perspective, I wanted to find out who Shez is and why do you do what you do? So please.
Yuri, listen, you're saying thank you to me. Thank you for facilitating this. Thank you to everybody who's in the audience. Can we start by, from me personally, I just want to send you all an infinite amount of blessings. I hope whatever you're doing, there's an abundance of love and light for you today, just for being here and sharing this energy with us. And Yuri, thank you as well. Again, thank you. Who is Shez? Oh, before I tell you who Shez is, I need to say congratulations, Yuri, for hitting that 1K milestone. Over the past few weeks that I've been connected with you, I've watched your journey, and I've said this to you in person, and I'll say it to you in the public arena right now. Consistency is everything. And as a content creator and as somebody who's trying to make inroads into your niche, you are very, very consistent. You put out content all the time and your content is of a good standard. So I applaud you for that. And massive congratulations for the 1K, bro. The first of many to come, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Shez. It means a lot. I appreciate that.
Who is Shez? Well, first and foremost, I'm a father. I'm a father of a 5-year-old son. And I think in my life, that plays the most important role. I think along the journey that we call life, I've suffered no shortage of trauma during my whole entire life, 41 years old that I am. And I think a lot of the people in the audience will probably be able to relate, because what happens in our lives is that we go through these periods of trauma and they just seem to come one after the other, after the other. And before you know it, we've gotten to a place in our lives where the trauma has come so many times that it's become the norm for us, and we've sort of become used to living with it and dealing with it. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to reach out to people who were in a similar position to myself, feeling stuck. Particularly last year when I started the project, we were in the middle of a lockdown because of the pandemic. And I just wanted to share knowledge, and I just wanted to share with people some positive messages to try and uplift people's spirits, to try and bring a collective energy together to get through our days. And over the course of the last year and a half, the project's just evolved naturally into what it is now. And now I'm in a place where I feel like I'm now calling myself a content creator. 4 weeks ago, I've given up my full-time job to make this my full-time passion. And that's where it brings me up to where I am today. I consider myself somebody that likes to share knowledge. But first and foremost, I'm just on a healing journey of my own. And I always feel like if I can share something that I'm doing or that I'm going through and it resonates with people and it helps people, then that can't be a bad thing, can it?
Yeah, I love this. I love this a lot, man. Big props to you for starting this project and, being willing to share your knowledge. I think that it's not easy to put yourself out there. It's not easy naturally, because I think, let's be honest, I think there's a lot of judgment out there, and not necessarily a lot of people, I think it's hard to assume that people naturally just going to support everything that you do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so props to you for doing that. Big props. So I wanted to start out just to ask you a general question.
Sure.
Given the topic of today's conversation, what do you perceive to be self-love? What is it? And the reason I ask that is because I come to realize different people define things differently.
Of
So
course.
it's always interesting to know how you perceive, how a person perceives a particular thing. So please.
I think for me, self-love is something that when you go through a load of experiences in your life, and when you go through a bunch of trauma and a bunch of events and incidents that shape your life to where you are today, a lot of the times you come to this place where you sort of find yourself alone. I speak to lots of people who are still surrounded by people, family members, partners, children, but they still essentially feel alone. And when you get to that point, that's when you then start to discover what self-love is. And self-love often gets confused with arrogance, but arrogance is bad energy. Self-love is positive energy, because what we're doing is we're protecting our energy. That's what self-love is. Self-love is taking care of yourself and doing the best for yourself in terms of your physical exercise, for your body, making sure that you're keeping boundaries so that people can't invade your energy, and that making sure that you're not letting negative energy in from other people and other sources. Self-love is making sure that you have stillness in the mind and calmness in the mind, and we do that through meditation. Self-love for me is basically making sure that you put yourself first, not in an arrogant way. I'm going to emphasize that again. You're putting yourself first because you're so used to not putting yourself first, and you've ended up doing all these things along the way and putting all these other people first. But where does it end up getting us? It ends up getting us right back to square one, where we need to learn things from the very beginning again. And so what I'm trying to do is tell people that if you, along this journey, you can find that level of self-love and you can learn to look after yourself, you're doing it for you, but the actual benefits will be felt by everyone who shares the energy with you. You inevitably end up being a better son, partner, sister, brother, parent, auntie, uncle, neighbor, colleague, whatever it is that you want to do. You end up being better at being that because you're looking after yourself. When you don't look after yourself, you can't possibly be the best for everybody else, because you're not even being the best for yourself. And I think what self-love is being the most authentic version of yourself. When you look deep inside you, the person that you want to be, that's what self-love is, when you embody that person that's on the inside.
Man, you hit on a lot of things there, buddy. A lot of really good stuff. You talked about learning to looking out after yourself, benefits to others, authenticity. And as you were talking, I was thinking, because it's funny that we are even talking about this right now. I kind of alluded to it 2 or 3 days ago on my Instagram live.
Okay.
That I did during my lunch walk. And I talk about self-love and why it's important. And I'm wondering, how do you think people recognize and identify that point, the difference between arrogance that you talked about and actually achieving self-love? Because I can see how it can be confusing. I can see how it could kind of tip on one way or another rather quickly. So how people can, in your opinion, how people can identify and pinpoint that place of self-love, but not arrogance?
It's easy, brother. It's easy. Energy. Men lie, women lie, energy doesn't lie. When you are in conversation with someone, your body language, the language you use from your mouth, your facial expressions, all of those things count towards what the other person receives from your message. And when you're arrogant, your energy is wrong. When you're arrogant, people are able to see that what you're talking about is self-serving. It's very, very self-serving. I think the difference between self-love and arrogance is that when you're doing self-love, you're practicing self-love. It's an everyday challenge to try and make sure that you look after yourself to the best of your ability. You go to the gym and you exercise. But when you go to the gym and you exercise, there's a way and a shape and a way of meaning of communication for how you convey that to somebody. You can say to somebody, I'm going to exercise and I think that you should too, because it's good for your body and your body needs that along in your healing journey. And then the other way of doing it is, if you don't exercise, then you're a bad person. Or if you don't exercise, I'm better than you. And that's arrogance. And I think that's the big difference between the two, is when you're doing it arrogantly, you're very self-serving and you're throwing it in people's faces. Whereas when you're doing self-love, there's a level of humility attached to it. There's a I'm doing this for me as well as for the benefit of other people. And it's a lot more encompassing energy that you have about you.
Yeah, man. You talk about energy. This is like a handful too, for, to be able to recognize those things. It's not as easy as it sounds, right?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I love that. I love that stuff. Quick shout out to Felicia for super sticker, $20, and Sam, huge shout out to you for 10-pound super sticker as well. Appreciate you very, very much. Look, Shez, let's continue on this track. You mentioned meditation. I was going to get to it later, but since you mentioned that, that was not my. I did not have this question on my list, but I want to talk about it. What about meditation? Why should people even consider meditation? What kind of benefits it provides, and how can it help?
It's one of the most common conversations I have with people on a daily basis, Yuri. Do you meditate?
So I meditate. I would say yes, but I meditate in a different way.
Okay.
To me, I meditate when I actually walk. So let me explain it this way, because I think the conventional perception of the meditation is that you sit down, you close your eyes, you control your breathing, you allow your thoughts to be as they are and not force anything, right? Am I in a ballpark? Yeah. Okay. So I've done that before, but lately my meditation comes, and I call it meditation. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I walk in the park and when I see the beauty of the nature, the beauty of the world, I stop there. I take that moment. I enjoy the scenery. I'm trying to recognize my thoughts, not really stuck on any one thought, but allow thoughts just to flow. And I really try to focus on the walk, listen to the sounds. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I'm listening Clubhouse when I walk, right? Sometimes I'm talking to someone on the phone. Yeah. But in other times, I'm really paying attention and being in the moment within the walk, because I find out then when that happens, I'm able to recognize sounds that I otherwise don't hear. I'm able to see things that I actually don't notice otherwise. And it creates a whole different experience. So for me, meditation can come in different forms. It's not just about sitting still and controlling your breathing. So to answer your question, I think I am meditating, just kind of in an unconventional way, if you will.
Okay, understood. I think definitely there's a lot of validity to what you've just said. There's definitely an element of mindful being in the moment, walking, particularly if what you're doing is, like you said, you're picking up on sounds and smells that you might not otherwise pick up. And that's very, very important for your mental state. To get positive mental health, you do need to appreciate nature. You do need to be there. I do agree with you that is very, very mindful walking. And you can meditate while you eat, while some people like to meditate while they're in the gym. They're very much in the zone and they consider that meditation. And it's all valid. I think at the end of the day, the importance of meditation is, it's so underrated as a tool for how we can control our emotions. One of the things that I'm most satisfied with that I've learned from meditation is how to deal with other human people, how to deal with confrontational situations, how to deal with situations where in the past, in a younger age of my life, I wouldn't have reacted in the same way. I'd have always said something and then I'd have had to respond to my own actions after that, because it might not have been a very friendly response, because that's how I was brought up. But what meditation has taught me is to take that pause. When I take that pause, because I can meditate, because I'd spend so much time practicing it, I can take a pause. And if I'm ever put in that situation, I won't respond like I used to when I was younger. And that's what it's taught me. That's the most important thing that it's taught me, is how to deal with other human beings when the situation isn't very favorable. But obviously there are a lot of other benefits from meditation. I've learned how to access my higher mind and access intuition, because when you spend enough time actually meditating, and I'm talking about like the conventional way where you sit down and you focus on your breathing and you try and observe the thoughts as they go by, when you then do enough meditation practice and you can get from behind your eyes to into the back of your head to into the top of your head, and you can see out of your third eye, we're getting rather technical here, that's when you can then tap into your intuition. That's where you can hear the energy calling from the universe. And when I always say to people, when you're looking for answers, the universe will tell you if you're even asking the right question. And that's all achieved through meditation. One more thing I'm going to add to that is that people have always said to me, I've tried meditation and I didn't get anything from it. And I said, yeah, but you didn't get anything, but you're not supposed to gain anything. Not everything in life has to have a gain. Let's look at what you've lost. For me personally, I've lost anger. I've lost a lot of my insecurities from learning how to meditate. The reason for that is through meditation, I've now learned about the value of self. And now I really, 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 really don't care what other people think. And that in itself, that line I just said there, I don't care what people think, is the greatest limitation of probably a lot of the audience today. The insecurity that we suffer is because we worry so much about what other people think. That's what holds content creators back from being the best versions of themselves. And that's what stops people from achieving positive mental health. It's that question, what will other people think?
I love this, man. I love this. I'm taking notes as you talk, because you said it's not sometimes about what you gained, but it's about what you lost in the process, right? So you talked about things that you lost, like insecurities and things like that. But I would also say that to me, you gaining internal peace.
Yeah.
You know? So
completely.
Even though you approaching it from a standpoint of losing, I think you're still gaining something, you know?
Yeah,
I think you might not necessarily, people might not recognize what it is, but there is real value that's happening within you. And even if you can do these little steps, little by little, to realize that, you know, it's not as important what other people think of me, you know? It's starting with the internal peace, right?
Yeah.
Linda, huge shout out to you for the super sticker. I appreciate you. By the way, if you're watching us live, be sure to smash the like button. Where's my like button? If you're watching from LinkedIn or Facebook, also leave me a comment below, because I cannot see you unless you leave a comment. And share it out. Let other people get all the gains as well, because Shezin is dropping some serious gems over here. All right, so I wanted to follow up on your last question. I wanted to ask you, you talked about losing things but not gaining, and I mentioned an internal peace. And with that, I did have this question actually written down, so I think it's perfect segue into this question.
Sure.
How can someone achieve an internal peace? Is there something more people can do? And we're gonna get back to meditation, because I think it's an important topic. But anything else that you can think of in terms of how people can really get there?
Well, it's a perfect segue for me actually as well, because literally at the moment, if you go on my website now, oneup.tv, if you click on the Academy section, there's the One Up Life Academy is now open. And on there, I've got a webinar called How to Get Unstuck, Practical Tips for Starting Again. And in that webinar, I'm actually talking about why people get stuck, what feeling stuck feels like, and how to get out of that stuckness. And along that webinar, I'm talking about how you achieve internal peace, because I believe, and you'll probably agree with me, that negative mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, stress, PTSD, all these things that we suffer from, they go hand in hand with us feeling stuck. Now, I'd love to ask the audience right now, if that's possible, Yuri, if you're all right with that. Yeah,
Of course.
that's the website. Audience, can I ask for your participation? What are the things that make you feel stuck in your lives? So drop us a little comment and let us know, what are the sort of things that make you feel stuck in your life? What stage are you at? Particularly want to hear from like content creators, because I know when I speak to content creators on a regular basis, a lot of them are feeling stuck because they're not growing, or they're not growing at the rate that they wanted to, or they just don't feel like their own content is of the same level that they'd like to aspire to. So drop us a little comment. Let me know what people are feeling stuck about. Thank you for bringing that website up as well, Yuri.
Yeah, no problem. I'm trying to switch it to where I can actually put you in a website in the same screen, but clearly I'm struggling. So you mentioned the academy, correct?
Correct, brother, yeah.
Okay, so I just want to show everybody what Shez is talking about. So it's OneUp TV, OneUp.tv. When you come to the website, you can click on Academy, and then it will take you to courses. And you can check out the actual courses. So there's going to be a wealth of knowledge, wealth of information that you can learn from these things that Shez put together. So thank you for that. And the question that you asked was, what make you stuck in your life? So give obviously everyone in the audience, leave a comment, tell us about things you're comfortable sharing. Maybe you can summarize it for us, and kind of describe it in the general sense. What is it? What kind of obstacles are you seeing in your life that really make you feel like you cannot get over? Because I think it's a really interesting point. Just judging from my own perspective, I resonate with a lot of things that you said. I think when I was younger, I was really going through a lot of insecurities, and I didn't even realize that I had those insecurities at the time. At the time, as you go through that, it's normal. You don't even recognize it. You just live that life and you think that's how it's supposed to be. And then in reality, when you get a little bit older, you realize, hey, that there's probably been some abuse. There's probably been some self deprivation. Is that the word? Deprivation?
Yeah, correct. Can I just add one point to that?
Yeah.
This is something that some of your audience might resonate with again. We've all suffered some kind of emotional abuse along the way. Well, the most of us have. What I want to make clear to everyone is that sometimes the abusers did not mean to abuse you. They just didn't know any better. Some of us are the children of immigrant parents who came to particularly into the Western world for a better standard of life. And I think along the way, culture from where they were from back home and mixed with the West culture, and they didn't know how to always express their feelings because they were trying to find a balance between the two. And sometimes I know for myself that I come from like a generations and generations probably worth of trauma because of the nature of the countries that my families were from. And as a result of that, that's trauma that we carry from our lineage. What I also want to emphasize though, is that for the people out there that do the healing work and that want to get in touch with self-love and trying to get unstuck, we are, through our own healing journey, will be able to stop that trend of generational trauma. We can be the ones who, for our future generation, don't lumber them with that baggage. We can be the ones who, through our work, can give our future generations the lessons that we were never taught. Because I'm telling you one thing now, they're not talking about insecurities in schools. They're not talking about insecurities in most family homes at the moment, because it's just not a topic that's on the agenda, because people don't know how to talk about it. And one of the reasons for that is that the majority of us are not even self-aware enough to identify when we're doing something that is not self-serving, or that is not like what we're so used to doing things and not even realizing the reason behind why we're doing it. And one of the things I've interestingly picked up with some of my younger nephews and nieces lately is the amount of things that human beings do for the approval of a potential partner. Whether that's, if you're a man, the things you'll do to try and impress a lady. And I think this talks into your topic, because obviously you're talking in your niche about dating and relationships with particularly Russian men. Well, one of the things I'm intrigued by is the amount of things that human beings do, whether it's a lady to impress a man, a lady to impress a lady, a man to impress a man, whatever it is, the amount of things I used to do in my everyday life just to try and impress women, and I didn't even think in my head that that was what I was doing it for.
Look, I really resonate with your point that you've made, about changing the generational lock and kind of being that stopping point, if you will. I think that's really deep, because there could be a lot of circumstances that happen within your family. There could be people that did not do the right thing before you. There could be people who even mistreated your loved ones and who've made really bad decisions. But it doesn't have to be your life. It doesn't have to be going forward. In United States, they say the buck stops with you. You can be, because people always want to say the motivational quotes, but sometimes we don't live by them. So that there's a lot of great stuff like be the change that you want to be in the world, right? For instance, Gandhi said that, I believe that. And so I think the question becomes, how can we first recognize that we have the power to change our luck or to change our family luck? And how can we believe that, it starts with us? It's not about what happened before. It's not about, even the things that other people did wrong to us. It's about the choices, everyday choices that we make, and how it's going to manifest into the future, right?
Yeah.
I think that is super, super powerful, because people have power. I just don't know if people really think about that and realize it.
Yuri, human beings do not have a comprehension of the fraction of the power that we have. Up here, the thing that's in our head, the brain, if people could understand a fraction of the power that the brain has, everybody would be a lot happier. The problem is that as a society, as a world, we've become this subconsciously mind programmed into autopilot, into just going through the motions every single day. And the majority of us are just slaves to our subconscious mind. And it's a very, very, very powerful thing to understand that through things that we do, through conscious choices, like you just said, doing our affirmations and making positive choices in our everyday life, the amount of influence we can have over our subconscious mind, and to harness that power. Because when the conscious mind and the subconscious mind come together, that's when you're at your most powerful.
Another thing that you mentioned when you were talking a moment ago is about impressing another person. Yeah. When you made a remark about relationships and whatnot.
Correct.
What are your thoughts on that? What do you think people should do, or why is it better not to try to impress someone? Because I think naturally, people kind of lean that way. People trying to put their best effort forward to make a good impression on other individuals. So I'm just I'm just curious, because it's a very fascinating point. Mm-hmm. Because on one hand, I can see it. I can see how you shouldn't be trying to do that. But then on the other hand, if you're not putting your best effort forward, you might not impress somebody, right? So that's a logical thing to consider.
Correct.
So then how do you think people should approach that?
I think I'm going to obviously we're coming on to relationships because that's the topic of your niche. A lot of the content of yours that I've seen is to do with how to date Russian men and the best way. And I'm right.
Correct.
With saying
Correct.
that, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
I'll go all the way back to when we're young, when we're very young. A lot of us have been raised in homes where we weren't necessarily shown the amount of love, or we weren't given the sort of validation in our homes, which then left us needing something, wanting something, and always seeking that approval. A lot of us became people pleasers as a result of it. Some of us became class clowns as a result of it. Some of us became introverts as a result of not being able to get that level of love as a young child. And then what happens is our insecurities as we grow up, my nose is too big, this is wrong with me, this is not right with me, I don't have a good hairstyle, I don't drive a good car, I don't wear the right jewelry, I don't have the right clothes. All of those things conspire to make us then do things on a daily basis, which are all centered around trying to win approval of others, trying to get approval of others. I'm just going to read what Linda says here. My issue is being able to disengage, also referred to as cutting psychic ties from my ex. Okay. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, Linda. I thought it might be related to what we were talking about. I'm going to come back to that definitely, though. When we spend our whole lives trying to impress other people, along the way, what ends up happening is, because you're not being authentic to yourself necessarily, because you're putting you classified it as putting your best foot forward. You're putting a foot forward, but it's not your best foot. Because if that person agrees to be your partner based on the clothes that you were wearing, which you only wore in the first place to impress somebody else, then that's not really you. And at some point, that mask's going to come off you, because you're not going to be that person forever. And then you've either inevitably sort of duped them into being with you in the first place, because that wasn't really you, or you're going to need to keep this facade on for as long as you possibly can. And if one of those things slips, if your mask comes off or you can't keep the facade off, then that person might turn around in a few years' time and go, well, you're not the person I actually thought I was going to get with. And then that's when people end up being stuck in a relationship, because they've got 3 kids. They look at their partner and go, you're not the person I thought you were. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense. I think what's really fascinating about this whole conversation is that fine line. And let me explain what that is. So people naturally trying to put their best effort at first. When you go on the first date, on the second date, you're going to get allegedly their best behavior, right? They're going to put out a representative vibe. You know, this is how they're going to showcase themselves in the best possible light. I think there is a certain amount of extra work that people do in order to impress somebody in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. I don't see a problem with that.
No.
I do, because you know why? Because I still think you can be an authentic person. You can still be you. Just because you're trying to do a little bit of extra work in the beginning doesn't make you unauthentic, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I think what ends up happening, you know, especially once people starting dating, so a little bit down the road, the effort isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
The effort to get there 5 minutes prior to the date, the effort to actually follow up with someone via text message, the effort to plan a date, or to say something even nice, you know, just simply check in with the person. So people, I think it's important for us to realize it's not about people not liking you because you're not wearing your best dress. You know, I think you talked about energy earlier. People can feel the change in energy.
Correct. Yeah.
People can change. People can sense the change in effort. And when that happens, and that happens after a few months, and it happens when you don't even have kids together, it's like, okay, so then from this point, logically speaking, it's only going to get worse, right? It's not going to get any better if after a few months you're not willing to put in the same amount of effort that you put in the beginning.
Absolutely not.
And so really, like, it's not, it is, in my opinion, and obviously I'm a little bit idealistic, a little bit philosophical in some sense, but
Yeah.
it seems to me that if you can build some sort of connection from the beginning, and then if that connection is being fed with consistency, because you talked about consistency earlier, consistency is life.
Yeah.
Everything it doesn't, I mean, like, it's, I don't usually I'm not a big fan of generalizing a lot of times, but with consistency I think it's safe to say that in order to get anywhere you need consistency. Sure. It's like, people treat their jobs in a different way that they treat their relationships. They will take care of their jobs, but they will not necessarily invest the same amount of energy into their relationships. So to me, how can you establish the connection? Is there, I mean, obviously we can talk about it for hours. I think there are a lot of different steps, but what it comes down to, you can't discard the meaning of consistency and hard work in the relationships. That's my take on it. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I turned the mic on mute to drink some water.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Spot on. Consistency is the key to anything in your life. Consistency is one of the things that is going to make the difference between whether you make a success of something or not. Simple as that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's see some comments because I want to engage with the audience. I appreciate every single one of you for being here. Smash this like button, share this live stream. Let other people get the benefits. Share the wealth, yo.
Every single one of you. You know that thing that Linda was just saying then?
Yes. Let's get back to that.
I wanted to go back to that comment.
Yes.
I wanted to ask Linda if she's, I mean, obviously this is a really, really deep topic, trying to disengage from someone and cutting ties with someone. It's a massive, massive thing to, especially when you've spent a number of years together, but it just takes practice, Linda. Really, it just takes practice to cut psychic ties from someone. It just takes a lot of practice. And there are, I don't know if you've tried any grounding meditation exercises where you're going to ground yourself. I'd look some of those up because those have helped me massively.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that suggestion. Let's just go through and see some other comments. Lisa said, I had to constantly please my parents. Anything I wanted to do was never good enough. I even ended up trapped in an abusive relationship because I gave into the pleasure of being with my ex.
Pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what we were just talking about then. We go from abusive relationships with our parents, even though they didn't mean to abuse us. I love my parents. I absolutely love my mother. I'd never say a bad word about her. She just wasn't equipped. She hadn't been equipped by her parents, who probably hadn't been equipped by their parents, and they weren't in a position to give us the emotional stability that we needed because they were so busy dealing with life that we just sort of raised as in autopilot, not without having that level of knowledge of what affection really was. And then what Lisa's describing there is we end up then seeking affection from a similar situation. But what you always hear people saying is, if you don't change anything, nothing changes. And we end up going back into the same cycles. And that's when you get stuck because you make the same mistakes and go through the same patterns. And what you're doing is you're revolving. When you notice what you're doing is wrong and you make the changes, that's when you evolve.
Look, we talked about self-love, but this is, I think, a good point to kind of make a distinction, if there is a distinction in your opinion, between self-love and self-healing. Because I think it's important to recognize that a lot of us are going to have traumas, different type of traumas, right? How do we get to a point where we can really heal ourselves? What it is that we need to do. We talked about meditation for a little bit. We talked about being authentic. We talk about taking, kind of getting away from trying to validate yourself for others is there anything else that we can do in order for us to self-heal?
First and foremost, I think that the difference between healing and self-love is that self-love is something that you're going to do along the journey of healing, whereas healing is what will come after you practice self-love. So there's the distinction. Healing sort of like what you're doing. Self-love is how you're doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Healing, the best way I'm going to describe healing to you is that healing is not a destination. Healing is a journey. And when you become used to the journey, and when you start taking pleasure from the journey, and when you start living in the moment and enjoying the journey, that's when you heal. But at the very start of all of that, at the start of the healing process, you need to do a lot of reflective work and a lot of depth to the work that you do. And you will need to sit with your pain, and you will need to sit with your ego, and you will need to sit. It's called shadow work. So along the way, when you're doing all of this work, there's a lot of shadow work that needs to be done. And that's when you identify what the less favorable sides of you inside are actually like, and you find out what motivates you to actually do what you do, which is what I said earlier in this call. When I've done this work is when I've realized that for the first 35, 36 years of my life, a lot of what I used to do was based around trying to impress people, even if they meant nothing to me. And that's what shadow work is. You find out what ego says, and you find out what your counterpart would say, which is light or faith. And you realize the difference between the two. I'll give you a classic example. Throughout my life, I've always felt like I was always a leader. I think leadership is something that people assume just because of the nature of their personality. I've always been a leader in terms of football and in terms of work and career mode and just rallying my troops around me. I'm always somebody that likes to lead from the front. As a result of that, I've always often been imitated by people, whether it was clothes, whether it was cars, whether it was whatever it was. People have always imitated me. In the past, I always used to take that as like offense. I always used to get like, why do they have to I never used to actually see that it's flattery. It's actually a good thing that people are copying me and wanting to make you wanting to be like me, using the words I use, styling their hair the way I style, whatever it was. People used to imitate me, and I used to get offended by it because that was my ego saying, I'm the only one who's allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do that. And similarly, people would say to me and feed my ego. Now, here's the big distinction. A couple of weeks ago, somebody said to me, when we were out watching the England football matches, someone said to me, that guy's got your hairstyle. It was just a man bun like this with the sides faded. And me, this new version of myself, this enlightened version of myself said, it's a popular hairstyle. No, I would have never said that 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if one of my friends said to me, the guy's got your hairstyle or something, I would have gone, looks better on me, or something like that, which is really toxic. It's a toxic thing to think. And because we think like that, imagine what our energy is like inside, because that's how our mind works. It looks better on me. Whereas now I would say, it's a very popular hairstyle. It looks good. Yeah. Congratulations to him.
Again, so much stuff in there, man. So much stuff. You talked about shadow work, and all I could think of is self-awareness.
Yeah, correct.
Because when you do that, it's uncomfortable. You're going to have a lot of, I think at first you're not going to be able to sit there still. At least I'm talking for myself, on my own behalf. When you're trying to face your demons, so to speak, you want to get away from it because it's not a pleasant process.
No, it's not.
But then once you do it longer, and once you start recognizing some things, it teaches you something about self-awareness. And I don't think that doing introspection has downfalls. I can't name any. What is the downfall of sitting there and just being still and being quiet and try to connect with your own self, you know?
I don't think there's any. I think the downfall is that the potential downfall is that some people are just not prepared to learn what they're about to discover about themselves. Because I'm going to throw something out there, Yuri. Some people don't know themselves at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do not know themselves in the slightest. They just do not know who they are. Everything they've done for the 25 years of their life or the 35 years of their life has been conditioned. They don't know who they are. They don't know what makes them tick. They don't know that if you said to them, forget what everyone else says to you, go put a pair of jeans and a shirt on that you like, that your heart says you want to do, go find a job that you want to actually do, go eat a food that you actually want to go and eat, would they then discover who they actually are? I'm somebody that even when I was very, 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 very little, 7 or 8 years old, I feel like I had voices in my head at that time. And I've always had issues with attention and anxiety and all the things that go along with. When I was growing up in the 80s, they didn't have such a thing as ADHD, attention deficit disorder, or anything. Those weren't things that we talked. People never talked about people being on the spectrum with autism or anything like that. These are very, very new concepts over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I think one of the things that we talk about with shadow work is when you start doing the shadow work and you look deep within yourself, that's when you find out. I spent 4 months at the start of this year, 3-4 months at the start of this year, just sitting with my pain every day. Every single day, I used to sit with my pain. I badly, deeply in depression. I was deep in a state of depression from January until like April. And I wasn't even able to put a lot of content out at the time because I physically couldn't bring myself to do anything. I was so low over a number of things that had happened. And what I realized was that when I sat with my pain and I spent hours and hours with it overnight, and I would talk to my pain every day and try and understand my pain, was when I realized that I thought my pain was called anger, and really my pain was called grief. And only when I spoke to my pain did I realize that my pain wasn't even who I thought it was, and anger was who I mistook it for. But really my pain was grief.
That's powerful, man. And I think also it's important for people to understand that if you do these techniques and introspection and you feel like you still cannot get anywhere, it's okay to get help.
Oh, brother.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that people think that they're alone in this battle, and I think that cannot be further from the truth. You know, I think we have professionals, we have therapists, we have psychiatrists, we have people support system that can help us. And if we having a difficult time, you know, winning these battles or making progress, we can always refer to other people to help us. I don't think it's nothing wrong with that.
It's the only way forward. It's the absolute. You have to. You have to. I speak to people obviously on a daily basis, and the first thing I'll always say is get some help. Talk to someone, even if it's not a trained professional, even if you just vent to someone who's happy to listen. And by the way, if you're ever in a situation where somebody wants to talk to you, don't give them advice. Don't give them advice. Just listen. Just be there next to them. I don't know if you know the scene from Forrest Gump where Bubba and Forrest are leaning back to each other, and Bubba says, "You sit here, I'm gonna sit right here with you." That's what I think a good friend, companion, what somebody does. Just listen to the other person, because sometimes they don't want your advice. They know what they need to do, they just don't know how to get there. So it's very important that you listen. Always seek professional help. Always try and get professional help. There's loads of good stuff available. Me personally, therapy hasn't worked for me. Therapy wasn't great for me. It wasn't self-sustaining for me. Medication doesn't work for me. It's not where I want my life to go. It doesn't. I see a lot of people successful with medication. It didn't work for me. The one thing that's worked for me, which I will champion for the rest of my life, is personal development. If you're looking in the mirror right now and you don't know the person that's there, and you're suffering from anxiety, depression, stress, PTSD, if you've got mental health issues that are not being fixed by professionals or by your family, and you feel like you're alone, you need to take the decision when you're ready to do some personal development, because that's the one thing I will promise you will get you over that hurdle.
I can't agree more. I think that when I was younger, I didn't realize that at times it is not about providing your opinion. It is not about trying to find a solution. Sometimes people just want to be heard.
Yeah.
I had an interaction with my mother not too long ago where she was venting about stuff. And I was like, well, how can I solve it? How can I help? And at the end of the conversation, she said, thank you for listening. And that's when it hit me. She really didn't need a solution. She just needed me to be there and allow her to communicate what was on her mind at that particular moment, you know?
Correct. Yeah.
My beloved community, I also want to give you opportunity to ask Shez your questions. I can talk to him all day, believe me. I have no problems coming up with questions, but I also want to give you the opportunity to ask what's on your mind. So please submit it in the chat. I'll start highlighting it, and we'll go through some of your questions as well. So please. But I love the conversation so far. Let's dive in some of the comments. I think Lisa has another one. I will never date a man with kids or divorced men who are druggists, criminal records, animal cruelty, or anyone who is unhealthy and inactive. And I think it does. I feel like it's relevant to some of the things you talked about before, Shez, just for the fact that we need to have self-awareness. We need to understand, what do we want out of a relationship? What things are acceptable for us and what things are not acceptable? Because if you can recognize these things in advance, you can save yourself a lot of time, a lot of nerves, and you can actually shield another person from your BS, if I'm being completely honest, you know? Mm-hmm. Because why would I take time to go, like, for example, for me, like, I don't necessarily like people who smoke. I don't mean like, I mean cigarette smoke, just the smell of it, right? So I think I'll be very hard pressed to go out with someone who's smoking. So for me, it's a no. It's a deal breaker. You know, I'm not gonna do it. Why would I waste somebody else's time? It's unreasonable for me to ask somebody to quit smoking. I think I can also come across as a shallow individual, but I think for me, knowing and being aware of this, right, can really be helpful, because it can at least tell me things that I don't want, so therefore I don't need to waste my time. What are your thoughts on that?
On which aspect of it, Yuri?
The aspect, what are your thoughts on the fact that you being self-aware to the point where you can recognize the things about yourself before actually pursuing someone, and then allowing yourself to be honest with that person and with yourself? And if there are things like red flags for you that are deal breakers, then you know at that point is not going to be a good match for you. Do you think that's a good thing to do, or do you think you still need to be able to kind of navigate another person and kind of investigate and see if there is a possibility of having something built together?
I think there's two levels to it. I think absolutely you should have your criteria, particularly if you said you don't like smoking, right? You don't like smoking. It's a waste of time. Why would a smoker and you connect if only either she's going to need to quit smoking because you're not going to tolerate it in the long run, and then you're asking her to not be an authentic version of herself. It's all I think it's a good thing. I think if anything, it saves everybody a lot of time and heartache along the way. My only concern with it is if what you're setting as your criteria are actually your criteria and they're not criteria that you've taken from society or from other people's opinions, because a lot of what we think we reframe from what other people say to us, particularly influences in our lives, like the parents, the family, teachers, people we've been surrounded by for a number of years. You must have heard the phrase, your network is your net worth. The other element of that is that obviously you're surrounded by all these people's opinions and they sort of seep into your subconscious without you even realizing. Interestingly enough, the lovely lady there, I think it was Lisa, she wrote, I would never get with somebody who's got kids and somebody who's got who's a divorced person. Now, funnily enough, I have the same conversation with more men than I do women. And I always say to men, just because a lady's got children and just because a lady's divorced doesn't necessarily make her a bad person. Like some of the other things the lady said then, like criminal record and druggie and so, I totally agree with that. But is it like that one? Yeah, I will also never date a man with kids or divorced men. That person might be a really good soul, that person, but they've had a bad experience in a marriage and they've ended up divorced, or that person might have had a really bad experience with a previous partner and has now got children, but doesn't make them a bad person. But is that our opinion that we're thinking we must stick to, or is that somebody else's opinion that society's put into our head that people who've got kids and are divorced are necessarily bad people? Do you get the difference?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot to be said about how we approach these situations and how we think about it. Because what if this man who is divorced man is your potential soulmate?
This is exactly, I mean, I'm responding in terms of what Lisa had said, because I've got a child, I've got a 5-year-old. I've had, my divorce came through 2 weeks, 14 days ago. So I'm 2 weeks freshly divorced. And I genuinely don't think I'm a bad person. I'm probably the nicest version of myself that I've ever been in my life. From a purely like self perspective, I know that 35 years in the past, I wasn't always very nice. I never used to think about what other people would think about a situation. I never used to think about, I had no consideration for other people. And I'm only able to say that now because I can look back honestly at my own upbringing, at my own development from young child to teenager to adult, just sort of going through the motion and carrying all this anger and frustration and not having a father figure and all of those things. And now when I look at life, I'm a completely different human being, but I have got a kid and I am divorced, and it doesn't necessarily make me or anybody else who's in that position a bad person. And I might be the most perfect person that would ever connect with you, but if you limit yourself off to that, you'll never know that. Do you get me?
Yeah, I get it 100%. And you know what's really interesting about this is this dilemma. And I call it dilemma because in my own head, I'm kind of going back and forth on that. Because on one hand, we have these preconceived notions of things that we don't want in our life. And that, of course, spreads in our dating scene as well, right? On the other hand, we really never know what the alternative would be unless we try, you know? Because how can you know? How can you know a person, like to your point, how can someone who is not going to give you a chance as a divorced man to ever have an opportunity to get to know you for who you truly are? They won't even have the opportunity to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the fear comes from previous experiences. If I've had a bad experience with someone who is smoking or who's been sleeping around, let's say, I'm looking for the signs and I'm trying to avoid the signs because I'm trying to avoid pain and, of course, wasting time.
But you said, you know what? I'm really conscious of some of the things people associate together. And it is fair to say that society would say that just because a lady smokes, presumably she sleeps. It's bonkers that we're talking about this, but that's how we get into these stereotypes of, if somebody smokes, then presumably they must be a lot looser in terms of choosing sexual partners. Does that make sense? And it's weird how our minds have these preconceived stereotypes, even if they're not necessarily ours. We might even be attracted to something that society says is unattractive, but in our public face, we will say to people, I don't like that. Yet deep down in our soul, we find it really attractive.
So tell me more. When you say really attractive, what are you talking about? Attractive features that you think, give me more.
I mean, I'll go back to the smoking thing. Like once upon a time, they used to give women cigarettes as props for photo shoots and stuff.
Yes.
There was a market of men that found that attractive.
Yes, yes.
And what I'm arguing is psychologically is that some of the men who found it attractive will definitely have been out in public saying, "Oh no, I don't like that."
I got you. Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. So they like the certain image that they've seen of that individual and what it represents, but really they saying that they would never be with that woman or date that woman. So it's kind of a conflict there.
Conflict, yeah. And that's where, again, imagine being that person. If you're in that position where you can't be authentic to yourself because you'd rather conform to what society would say is acceptable. And then that conflict goes on inside your head and you're never going to be really happy because half of you saying, no, I like this. And the other half, but we can't do it because society says we shouldn't. So then you're never going to get to really express the way that you would like to be because you're going to choose what society tells you to do.
Yes, and it's funny that you brought this example because that made me think of, sometimes you drive by billboards and you see this successful man wearing like a suit with a tie, like have some sort of nice watch or have a car on the background that's super fancy, and they portray this image, the success, status. And I think that a lot of people, a lot of men in this particular instance will look at it and we think, I will be there one day.
Yeah.
I will be this successful image, this male. And I will, at that point, when I get there, I will have the money, I will have the women that I want, or a woman, what if you want, depending if you want to date one person or not, I will be able to do whatever I want. And this could not be further from the truth because that day never arrives. Because that puts you in the mindset that you are saving things up. You're saving up life to live for a year from now, for 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And we can be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, correct. You're so spot on. There's another element to that, Yuri. What about the percentage of men who would look at that and think, damn, I'll never be that?
Yes.
Right?
So either way you look at it is a bad influence.
Yeah.
It's a bad influence.
Look at it, it's not tantamount to a good mental health experience. Now, here's the flip side of it. Here's what an enlightened person says. Oh my God, he looks awesome in that suit. And then looks at his clock and goes, it's 6:08. Where am I headed? Back to the current moment. I'm going to Yuri's. I'm going to go and have a coffee. You bring yourself right back to the current moment because I'm happy in my skin. I'm never going to be him and I don't want to be him. And I might have spent 35 years wanting to be the guy in the suit with all the women and James Bond and the Aston Martin and the watch. And what does all of that mean at the end of the day? Nothing. None of it matters. None of it. The one thing, and Sam will tell you this, I endlessly talk about how much I hate money, how much I hate the concept of making loads of money and doing this and doing that. We just need enough. We need enough to pay our bills and eat and be comfortable and give our children comfortable lives. We certainly don't need excess. And a lot of this image that people are trying to live up to is all based around money. And it's one of the things I'm talking about in my courses. If you've come on my courses because you want to be rich or you want to be a millionaire, it's not going to work for you because my work is all about being happy, and happiness has got nothing to do with money.
And we can take this scenario to a different level. What if you're trying to be that man for 20 years, and then once you arrive there, you realize that you didn't really want it. It didn't make you happy, you know?
Oh,
Then you
500.
wasted 20 years
Hmm.
with the idea in your head thinking that this is really what you needed, where in fact you never needed it. And so how the question becomes, how can you be fulfilled in the present moment? No matter what you have, no matter who you are, being able to work through um, your circumstances and make the best out of your life. But how can you smell the roses right now? Is that correct?
Gratitude. Gratitude. Accepting. And I would argue with most of the, I would say that most of the people on, in fact, everybody on this stream is in the top 20% of the people in the world. So that's at least 80% of people that you're better than. The reason is you're sitting here watching a YouTube stream tonight on a Saturday evening. Likely you've had a glass of water today. Likely you've had a meal today. Likely you woke up in a bed. There's probably somebody at least in your life who you would call a loved one. If there's not, and you do live a very reclusive, introverted life, and I've been there as well, I've been very, very reclusive at times in my life, you've still got health, and you've still got the weather, and you've still got a roof over your head. And if you're in that position, then appreciate that and be very thankful that you're still in the top 20% of people in the whole world, because in the world there's 7 billion people, and that's a lot of people who you've got it better than. Because I'm telling you right now, there are people 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening in the UK sitting on the streets in the rain begging. They haven't got a meal tomorrow. They haven't got a roof over their heads tonight. There's all the people in war-torn countries, children, women, people in many, many, many situations over the world who have got nothing and haven't even got hope for tomorrow. We've got it all better than them. So I think gratitude and realizing how blessed we actually are is a good starting place.
Gratitude is the game, my friend. Is one of the most powerful thing that any human being can do for themselves, because it puts you back in the place of appreciation.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful place to be in. It's always not comparing yourself, but knowing and realizing what you do have. And also another thing that I tend to do, I tend to think of everybody in my family who sacrificed for me to be what I am today. Like there's a lot of people that lived tough lives, in my family tree in order for me to be what I am today.
Yeah.
There is a lot of people, to your point, is not just there are so many people in the world who are in much less fortunate situation than you are. And if your point of reference, these individuals, as opposed to a guy in a suit on a poster, you're gonna win. You're gonna win. This is very powerful, man. I resonate with that a lot. I love gratitude. We have a question from Linda. She said, Shaz, if you don't mind sharing, how old are you? When did you start your self-healing journey? I'm 70, started mine at 21.
I'll be completely honest with you, Linda. I've had multiple stop-starts. I've had lots of situations from when I was a very, very young lad, when you're growing up in a when you come from a single parent family, from a broken home that they call it. I was very young when my dad left, and living in an ethnic family in the UK had its own challenges. I think I resonate with what you said there. I'm 41 and I started my healing journey years ago. I wouldn't even be able to give you a date. I think until a certain point of probably being 23, 24, I had no knowledge of anything. I thought I knew everything, and actually I knew nothing. And then I got into some trouble, and then my healing journey has been consistent after that. What I've always done wrong is I've done healing, and then I've gone right back into my old patterns. Sometimes I've done healing and I haven't done my healing, and I've had another trauma and then another one to pile on, and I haven't processed any of it. And then I've had years of work to get through. Now, I think it comes with life experience, and I think it comes with maturity, and maturity isn't a number, it's an energy. Age isn't a number, it's an energy. And I bet you, I can tell just by looking at your glam picture that you're a very young 70. And I think that's because you are aware of your self-healing journey started so many years ago, that you're at a place where your energy is a lot younger than your body. And I'm very similar to that. I feel like energetically I'm much younger than 40, 41, but we've been healing for years, Linda, been healing for years. Only this time I'm not going to fall back into those same patterns, because I've realized what those patterns were, and I've realized what those self-destructive behaviors were. And again, it comes back to identifying what my insecurities were and not being fully self-aware of what I was capable of. And finally realizing that the image I was presenting of myself wasn't even the image that I wanted to present of myself.
Shez, I watched your TikTok video. Thank you for that. I want your TikTok video where you talked about 5 things I can afford. And you talked about stress, envy, negative vibes, doubt, and deceit. How did you come up with that? And what does it mean to you?
They cost too much. They're just things that cost too much along the way. It doesn't benefit me. I've spent years pulling the wool over people's eyes, but the biggest person I was pulling the wool over their eyes was myself. I've spent years, I've spent a lifetime doing it. That's why I mentioned the deceit thing. More than it deceiving other people, it's just deceiving myself. It's making myself believe I can do something when I don't need to do it. It's telling myself that I shouldn't do something when I absolutely want to do it. That's deceiving myself. Similarly with I can't afford stress. I can't afford anxiety. I can't afford bad vibes. And I tell you again, 95% of them come from doing things that are not aligned with us. It comes from doing things that are not aligned with what we would want to be doing. And part of that is saying no, having boundaries. I used to say yes to so many things that I didn't want to do because I was a people pleaser. I didn't think I would get anything out of it, but I would do it to make other people feel better in the hope that that person would then probably reciprocate it for me sometime if I needed it. And then people never come through for you when you need it. So now if I'm able to do something from the goodness of my heart and expecting nothing in return, I'll do it 1,000 times. And if that one thing is something that I could do but have no desire to do, I'll say no, because it doesn't suit me at that time. And there's a difference between self-love and arrogance. I'm not doing it because I'm being awkward. I'm doing it because doing it at that moment does not suit me or bring me any joy. And there's no point of doing that then, because then I'm always going to have something niggling in the back of my head.
Yeah, deceit. You talked about that. I feel like I went through that stage too. Just trying to put up a facade, you know, for other people. Speaking of people, what is your take on warning signs in a relationship or in dating? What are these things? Because again, I'm asking such a broad and general question because I'm interested to know your perspective, because I feel like it's really different. It varies from person to person, you know, how people feel about that.
Yeah.
So warning signs, how what would you say they are?
What are warning signs, or what should people do about warning signs?
Let's talk about both.
Okay.
What are they and what people should do about them?
What are they? People, my biggest problem with the relationship game, so I'll give you a bit of context. I'm single from 5 years. I'm 5 years single. I'm 41. And I've been single since 2016. It's been so long that I've even been saying 4 years until just a couple of weeks ago, because I didn't even realize it was 5 years. And it's been by choice. I've been single by choice. And one of the things that annoys me about the relationship game is that everybody's playing a game. Everybody is playing some sort of game. Everybody, if you want to text someone, text them. If you want to text somebody and you don't text them because your partner, your friend or your flatmate or your brother or somebody says, oh, no, don't text, you'll appear too keen, you're not being true to yourself. If your inclination, if you want to text somebody, but somebody tells you that you shouldn't, and you then don't do that, you're not being true to yourself. And that's the problem with the relationship game at the moment. There's too many people doing things that are not authentic. They're not true to what they're doing. They're doing what they're advised to do. They're doing what society tells them to do. And the other problem with dating at the moment is obviously because of online dating, people think they've got an endless supply. And as much as that's true, I'm a big believer in abundance, and there's plenty for everybody to go around, love, vibes, everything. But the issue that comes in is, at what point then do you say, okay, now I'm satisfied with what I've got, I need to stop looking through the catalogue? Red flags, the biggest red flag that I find from people is dishonesty, deceit, these things, negative vibes, anything that makes you think. And a red flag is anything that makes you think this person is not who they're presenting themselves as. What do you do about that? I just said literally 30 seconds ago, there's an abundance of people. If somebody is not being true to themselves, and then, in other words, trying to pull the wool over your eyes, my advice in that situation is don't proceed any further. Because if they're giving you the warning signs now, the likelihood is that they're not going to change later. And the reason I know this is from experience, because I've entered into relationships in the past where I've not even been ready to enter that relationship, but I didn't know any better, that I've entered into relationships thinking that was going to be the solving of my problems, when all I've done is taken my existing problems and now I've added another one in, because now I'm adding it into a relationship setting, which is probably why I'm back to being single again. But this time I've been single by choice, because I'm not prepared to put my red flags onto other people, and I'm not in a position to take anybody else's red flags. At this point in my life, I only want authentic. And if you're 100% authentic to yourself, and it doesn't matter to me what you look like, it doesn't matter to me where you are in the world, if you're supposed to be connected to me and our actions are speaking like that, it'll happen anyway. What I'm not prepared to do is force it with people who are trying to deceive me by deceiving themselves along the way. They're the red flags.
I love it. So much good stuff today. So much good stuff.
We try, Yuri, we try.
Yeah. We're doing good, I think. We're doing good. If you are just joining us, please smash the like button. I need to make sure I'm in the shot. Smash the like button. Shaz is dropping some gems over here for everyone. So share it on your social media. Invite some of your friends to join. We're talking about important things: mental health, self-love, understanding yourself, how to proceed in this crazy world. So I do want to ask you now a question.
Fire away.
Pertaining to relationships, because I'm liking the direction where we're going with that. Can you define a woman that would make you a great match for you? Have you ever thought, is there an image of that person? Is there a certain behavior traits that you can think of? Are there some check marks, checkpoints that you can identify?
Having been in the relationships that I've been in, I've always self-admittedly been very shallow, been very pretentious. I've always gone for a certain type of lady, and it's not necessarily probably what my deep down intuition wanted. I always kind of went with certain types of ladies that society would deem attractive, beautiful, because they present themselves like that. Whereas now, if I had to put a description over the kind of person I would want, the first thing I'm looking for, the first thing I'd want is somebody that understands that what it's like for me to be a content creator and how seriously I want to take my craft, because I live and breathe this. I spend hours and hours and hours, and I don't have a hobby. My hobby is content creating. So I'm so lucky, and I'm sure you'll express the same thing, Yuri, that being a content creator, if you get to do and talk about on a daily basis all the things that you love to talk about, you don't really need anything else in the world, do you? I get to sit in front of this laptop and this camera and these lights on a daily basis and talk and make content, and I'm so privileged. But it takes a certain type of partner to understand that, because some people in society would say, is that a career? Are you not just being lazy or a dreamer or something like that? And so one of the things that I really want is somebody who understands what my life is like as a content creator, because I'm very, very empathetic in that I understand, I feel what everyone's doing, and I feel what everybody is thinking. I have great intuition, and I can sort of know what somebody's vibing with and what somebody's wanting out of a situation. I'm unable to understand that. So with a partner, I'd be very good like that. I'm very accommodating. I just want someone to do the same thing for me. Most above everything else, though, a smiley soul, like somebody who's very content in their own life now, has been through a healing journey, and definitely somebody who's had experiences in their life. No disrespect to people who've had very simple lives, but people who've had very simple lives and myself don't often very resonate with each other, because I've got far too much in the life bank for somebody who's had a very linear, I started my life, I went to school, I went to college, I got married, here I am, and this is me now. I much prefer connecting with people who've had trauma, who've had experiences, because then we can share with each other.
So two things that really stood out to me based on things that you said. One is the fact that people need to accept other individuals for who they are.
Yeah.
It's a must. And I've been in relationships before where I felt like people trying to change me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had a conversation via DM on Instagram today with a couple of folks from my community. And one question was about a man who's being lazy, who's not doing things that his woman expects him to do.
Okay.
And I think that as people, we got to understand that we're going to be taking chances with whoever we date. Like, there are no guarantees whatsoever, you know? So if you're seeing a person who is lazy or who is not up to your standards, take it at face value. Understand that this person may never change, you know? So I think the next logical question, do you accept that person as this person is? Because just to your question, to your point, I mean, you're a content creator. This is something you love to do. You live and breathe content creation and sharing your message with the world.
Yeah,
if you have a woman who comes into your life, and if even after a while, once you start dating, once you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Once you exclusive in even if you're dating exclusively,
yeah,
if at that point she is trying to start taking little jabs at you, hey, you're spending too much time with content creation. Remember, we were supposed to do something this weekend, and that start builds on itself. There's one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to submit to that, you may be miserable for the rest of your life. You probably will be if that's the case.
yeah,
Or she will realize, I need to accept him as he is because this is part of his life and this is very important to him. So I need to let him be and embrace the man who you are. Now, I'm not saying that it's applicable to every single thing.
yeah.
If you're breaking a law, I don't think it works the same way.
No.
You know, I would hope that people understand the difference and would stay away from trouble, real trouble.
Yeah.
I'm saying the hobbies, the personality traits, the things that really matter to that individual. People must understand that these things don't change easily. And I would even argue, why should they change? Why should I change what I've been doing for 2 years prior you coming to my life just to please you, right? And I think it works both ways. I'm using this example just as an example, but I think it's similar type of situation if I am coming in a woman's life, and then I'm demanding for a woman to change because of me.
Yeah.
I don't think it works very well. And to your second point, you talked about somebody with a trauma and somebody who coming in with experience. I think when we go through things in life and we have a point of reference to something, maybe, I don't want to say something worse, but other experiences that make us realize that what we have right now is actually a good thing.
Mhm.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
100%. There's so many levels to what we're talking about as well, brother, because I'll be honest with you, if somebody if I had a partner and I promised her that we're going to be doing something on Saturday, we'll be doing something on Saturday. I
Mhm.
want to do my content creation. One of the reasons I want to be a content creator is because I'm a free spirit, and part of my life is expression, creation, art. But one of the reasons I want to do that is because I'm not built to answer to the man. I'm not, I've worked for people. I'm going to be very, very respectful in how I say this, but I've worked with people who, in the politest way possible, can't do a fraction of what I can do with my life. It's taken me a long, long time to realize, because when I
Mhm.
was a young person, nobody told young Shez, you're actually quite intelligent. You might be able to achieve things in your life. Because when I was little, I was so naughty, I was in so much trouble. Nobody ever bothered to say, listen, young man, you could actually be somebody if you wanted to try. And what
Mhm.
I've found during my life, especially as I've got older, is in companies, particularly corporate companies, you get people in these positions, middle management, lower management, who are on power trips. And instead of trying to understand that I'm the sort of person that if I've got somebody working with me, anybody I've line managed over the last few years will tell you, I tell them I work for them. They don't work for me. And I've always tried to elevate people. But people in corporate positions, instead of seeing me as a talent and somebody that they could benefit from, they'll try and hold me down and clip my wings. That's why I'm not built to work in them environments. So I'm a content creator. But one of the reasons I want to be a content creator is that my life outside of this is in my own hands. And so if I promise a lady that we're going out on Saturday night, we're going out on Saturday night. But what I can't tolerate on the flip side is my lady saying to me, you speak to too many females online. Because you knew that when we started this. And I don't differentiate, by the way, between men and women,
Mhm.
because there's only, in the world, there's men and there's women. And obviously we have other genders in terms of non-binary and binary and the other genders that have come about over the last few years. But essentially, there was men and there was women. And I think people get too caught up on how much time you're spending talking to the other opposite sex, because they're insecure about it from themselves, either from past experiences or from assuming that you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Whereas when I'm online and I'm talking to people in my community, shout out to everybody in the urban hippie community, by the way, if I'm talking to someone of them, I'm looking at them just as a sharing of energy between a human being and myself. It doesn't matter whether they're a lady or a man. And I've known content creator friends, lovely, lovely, amazing independent women who've started seeing someone that they've met online, and the person that they've met online has turned around and said, yeah, you need to stop being on TikTok now, or you need to stop being on Instagram now and stop going on lives because you're getting too much attention. But that's how I met you in the first place. So
Mhm.
what you're doing is double standards. I don't agree with that.
And another thing too, man, you know, insecurities when they come out, that's the bad sign, man. That's a bad sign when you start projecting your insecurities on other people, because if you're coming into a relationship and you open about your role as a content creator and you communicating those things to your lady, but then insecurity comes out and conversation is framed like, hey, you shouldn't be talking to other people. it's like lack of understanding, it's insecurity, it's a lot of things that are just not going to get it done.
No.
It's things that are going to destroy ultimately the relationship, you know? And
Mhm.
so it comes back to what we started talking about, it self-awareness, because it's not
Self-love.
a problem with you, it's the problem with the other person.
Yeah.
uh, because here's the thing too, one more thing I want to say about this. I need to be confident in myself first. I need to understand what I bring to the table and that I have a lot of value that I provide to other individual in this relationship. And if other person is not willing to see it, you being jealous is not going to help it. You know,
No.
it's only going to make it worse. I mean, so it's kind of interesting how it works.
When we if you're in a real couple, if you're in a powerful couple with somebody who shares the energy with you and understands you, they will realize that everything you do together is only a representation of what you're both doing individually. If you both truly love each other, that's the only way that you're going to be able to have a proper proper energy sharing relationship. Anything else, there's always going to be one side leaning stronger than the other side. And it's never good. That's a lot of the reason why people are stuck. When I talk to people who are stuck that reach out to me on social media, the majority of them are either career or relationship. My partner, my partner, my partner, my partner, my boss, my boss, my boss, my boss. They're the two most common things that I talk, the two most common topics that I speak to people about.
What are your thoughts on being a free spirited person versus, or I don't know if I should say versus. Let's just put two things in one sentence.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? And then you can answer however you want. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of two concepts in my head.
Okay.
One
Fire away.
concept is being free spirited person.
Mhm.
Second concept, responsibility.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening sometimes with free spirited people, they free spirited, they love having a good time, they worry free, and then they don't take care of their freaking responsibilities,
Mhm.
you know? And I'm just going to go on a limb and assume I'm not by no means saying that there's I don't want to say correlation. I'm not implying that all free spirited people lack responsibility. What I'm saying is sometimes it could happen. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? How do you see that happening with people, or have you seen that happening with people? And if you have, sounds like you have. How do
Yeah.
you find the balance in that?
I think your why is a massive reason, isn't it? If you've got a massive why, what you just said then, you can be free spirited and still be responsible. It's one of the concepts of what I call my community. What I call my community is, I say we're urban hippies. And what hippie means to me is essentially just having love in your soul and wishing love onto others. That's what having a hippie soul is. But people have this opinion of hippies that they've got to have unkempt hair and long beards and they live in the fields, and it's not necessarily always like that. Hippies are not necessarily just out hugging trees. You can have a hippie soul. And what I mean by urban hippie is we're people that live in urban situations, in towns and cities, but we have hippie soul. And that's what being a free spirit is. It's being a free spirit, but still looking after your responsibilities. I have a 5-year-old child. Sam's in the audience. Sam will tell you there is nothing in this world that will stop me from seeing my child when I'm supposed to see him. Now, I know free spirited men who don't live with their children, that might not see their children for a week, two, which turns into a month, and then they might go back and see them, because that's their interpretation of free spirit. My interpretation of free spirit is that your energy is free. You get to do the things that you choose to do. You get to do the things that your heart wants to do and make you happy without causing anyone else any sadness or pain or inflicting any kind of trouble onto anybody else. Just a great philosophy for life. Do what makes you happy. Just don't hurt other people.
I love that stuff, man. I love that stuff. Listen, I know that you have a few more minutes. I want to be respectful to your time, man. I can talk to you all day. It just flows naturally, man. But I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
give
been
you,
good.
yeah, it's been a great talk, man. I really, really enjoying this. I want to give you a chance to tell people more about um, your website,
Yeah.
your business, whatever you want to talk about, your content.
Thank you.
Why should someone consider, joining? So I wanted to give you a chance to share all of that with my community. So the floor is yours.
Um, One App TV, we all need a positive. We need positive mental health. We need a positive mindset. And sometimes we just need a bit of a positive sprinkle on our day because things aren't always going as easily as they could. I started this channel, We All Need a Positive, One App TV, just to lift people's spirits and to talk about positive mental health because not enough people do. There's a lot of awareness about it, but there's a lot of generic quotes that people throw out there trying to lift other people up. But I don't know necessarily how much people have been through themselves. And having lived a life like that, it was what I love talking about. I'm consciously always talking about positive mental health from the perspective of being a father raising a son. I talk to a lot of young people because I mentor a lot of people in the local community, and I speak to young people all the time. And it's something that I'm talking about all the time: positive mental health, how to look after yourself, how to be the best version of yourself. It's just something I live and breathe. I like to think that the community that I've built up over the last 18 months on social media are all people who are on the same journey as me. And that's what makes it such a privilege to be amongst these people. I always say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a trained professional, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not going to give you medication. What I am is I'm a content creator, I'm a sharer of knowledge, I'm just in the trenches with you trying to navigate this life. And all I like to do is share my experiences in the hope that they make someone else's day better. And the only thing that I measure success by is not the number of followers. I never look at followers. One of the reasons I never put on my profiles that I've got so many followers on one profile and not on another is because it doesn't matter. I like to make native content for each platform so that if you're following me anywhere, you're getting original content. I don't post stuff on TikTok and then post the same thing on Instagram. I will give my Instagram audience, even as small as it is, their own reason to follow me on Instagram. And I'm the sort of person that says, if my content can bring you a smidgen of joy, then my job's complete. I'm literally not interested in how many followers I've got, how much money I'm making out of it, or anything like that. The response that I want is all I ever look for is to try and help somebody feel that little bit better for that day. If I can change somebody's perspective from one day about what they're feeling, and give them one suggestion or one tip or just a little push in the right direction to say that I'm doing the same things they are, that's all that matters to me. And it is always the biggest honor and privilege when the community says to me that something I said to them resonated with them, or something that I mentioned in a post has been something that they've experienced and what I'm saying resonated with them. That's all that matters to me.
I can't agree with that more, because sometimes when you get comments from individuals who says your video made a difference, or what you said improved my relationship with someone,
Yeah.
or I learned something from you, that's like a different level of gratitude that I've never felt before,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
extremely powerful to be able to even minimally affect people lives in the positive direction.
it, it, on the one hand, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't
Yeah.
even see. On the one hand, you think to you, there's an element of me still, there's an element of me that says, people messaging me saying how much they liked something that I wrote or spoke about. Is this real? Like, is this possible that this is me? But then the majority of me says, this is what you work for. This is the energy you put out, is the energy you'll get back in. If you're selfless and you create if you put a video out on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or something every single day for a year, you're going to build up a community regardless. But then on top of that, you know yourself, Yuri, that if the content's good or valuable to people and people need it or look for that and need it in their own lives, there's no bigger privilege. There's no bigger, in the modern day, there's no bigger privilege than having your own little corner on the internet where you exist, and that's your little world and your little community. No matter what goes on out here, I know that I'm very, very comfortable with all of my misfits and weirdos because I'm a misfit and weirdo. I've never fitted in. And I've given misfits and weirdos a little place to come and chill with me on the internet. And that blows my mind. And literally, you've got your own community because in your own little way, you will have been a misfit and a weirdo in your own world. And I talked about this to Sam all the time. Shout out, Sam, because you're still watching, I'm sure. We talk about this all the time. It's just having a little space of belonging. Sam follows a lot of people, including yourself. And Sam tells me the content creators that he follows, they inspire him, they influence him, they make him be better at what he does. And that's what we're trying to do.
I thank you so much for the time. Oh man, I butchered your name. That's terrible, man. I apologize for that. That was terrible way to finish. Wow, man.
Bro, I don't listen.
Oh my God.
That's a minor. What we have to remember is we've talked about some amazing things.
I corrected it. I spelled it with A, so that would have been terrible. People probably like, man, you've been talking with the guy for 2 hours and you can't spell his name. This is live stream. This is where you make mistakes. But my friend, did I spell everything correctly as far as your YouTube One Up TV with the space, correct?
Listen, at the end of the day, if you go on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and you search One Up TV, you'll find us. It's 3 smiley faces. You can't go far wrong. All we're trying to do is put a little bit of sunshine back in people's lives, like Yuri is. And on this kind of platform, this kind of setting, it just feels surreal to me at times that this is what we're able to do on a daily basis. I'm very, very much a believer of hopefully the worst days of the pandemic are behind us. And one thing I would urge everybody to do in the audience is celebrate your life, live your life. You see me, I'm in these clothes tonight. As soon as this finishes, I'm going back out to go and enjoy my life, because you work hard so that you can enjoy your lives. Don't let the moment pass you by, folks. I'm not saying everybody in here has to be a content creator. I'm not saying everybody in here has to do the same things that we're doing, but whatever it is that makes your soul happy, do more of that. That's what I would urge you to do.
If you have not taken away anything from today's talk, please don't let this moment to pass you by, okay? The most powerful message comes at the end. Enjoy the moment that you have, because indeed this could be the only thing that we do have. My friend, I'm internally grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yes,
and for all the wisdom and knowledge that you provided for the world today through this platform. I hope that we do it again, man. Maybe there's some collaborations we can do down the road, man.
Yeah, I've got so many things. I've launched my website's live now. I'd love it. People could go and have a look on oneup.tv. The Academy's live. You can go watch a webinar about how to get unstuck. Some very practical tips in there. I've got a course that's available for you to buy if you want to talk about manifesting flow and abundance. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be launching a podcast as well. I'll definitely get you on that, Yuri. We'll have a cross collab back at this way.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm looking forward to it, man. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for the wisdom, for all the knowledge, for taking the time. Enjoy yourself, and I hope to speak with you soon, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you to Yuri's community. Big love, blessings to you all. I love you. Enjoy your Saturday evening.
Take care, buddy. Appreciate you. Take care.
Peace.
My friends, that was so much fun. So much fun. Thank you for sticking with us, for learning, for interacting, for communicating. I had a blast. I hope that you did too. Let's go through some comments before we wrap up. And before we get out of here, next Saturday, I'm still going to try to go live. I'll be in touch with you. I'll be visiting my family starting tomorrow. So I'm going to be gone. So it's going to change maybe some things, but my plan is still to be doing the live streams on Instagram and still to connect with you next Saturday. So stay in touch with me. Just, keep up with all the updates via Instagram, Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, Ruski Prototype, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Sometimes I drop some information there. Instagram, Russian Prototype. Let's see some comments, shall we? Sam, thank you for sticking around. We have UK really strong in the house today. Appreciate you. Agatha said, Yuri saved my life. It cheered me up when I got mentally down. This man, and now he brought Shaz here on live stream. I keep messing up his name. I'm like so embarrassed, guys. It's even beyond belief. I have to now I have to now really double check, like, how did I it's spelled with SHEZ, and I misspelled it, I think, on multiple occasions, but whatever, we got it done. He wasn't mad at me. He was a great sport. So that was so much fun. Listen, seeing these comments, means a lot. This is one of the best things about being a content creator. I think that there's just nothing matches that. The fact that somebody else across the world can, feel a little bit better, or these things can brighten your day. That is really everything that I can ask for. This is the most powerful thing in the world, is being able to impact somebody that way. So I'm forever grateful for that. Linda says, you're amazing to bring this content to us. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for interacting. Letitia said, are you going to Russia? No, my family is in Illinois, United States. So I'll be there. It's actually 3 hours from Chicago. It's not Chicago, but it's in the same state. My friends, this was a blast. Next Saturday, mark your calendars for 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time live stream. It's open right now. I don't have any guests planned or any topics planned. So maybe that's going to be a community interaction. Maybe I'll just find a guest next week. We'll see what happens. This is part of being, a content creator. You never know what's going to happen, I suppose. So this is a good thing. Linda asked, what is it in your window? This is a flag from a music festival. This music festival called Tomorrowland. And I went there. It's in Belgium, Europe. And I went there a couple of times. And last time I went there, I had this flag pre-made for me. This is like one of the most powerful music festivals, because it's really all about uniting people from all over the world. So I guess I'm just continue to carry a torch with my own community and continue to unite people from all different corners of the planet, which is the biggest pleasure, the biggest privilege anyone can ask for. Next Saturday, I hope to see you at 12 p.m. Follow on Instagram, follow on Twitter. I hope to stay in touch with you. I hope you've gotten a lot of value from today's talk. Shez dropped a lot of knowledge, a lot of points. I was taking notes myself. Look, to put a bow on it, a lot of things happen in our mind. I would go as far as to say that sometimes life is being lived in our mind. Life is being lived in our mind that doesn't exist. This is the most powerful thing that we have. This is right here, because this right here makes everything else go. It It helps you to realize how you feel. It helps you to learn. It helps you to forgive. It helps you to communicate. And it helps you to create perceptions or realities, whether those perceptions and realities are real or imaginary ones. Protect your mind first. Protect it. Take time to spend quiet time, I would say, with yourself, to where you're not being stimulated by the thoughts of others, by the outside world, by any other external factors. Take time to spend time with yourself and understand yourself. And if you never consider meditation or just having this quiet time, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, some people discard these things right away. They say, like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would I do that? You would, and you know, my response to that is that you're okay watching Netflix every day, but you're not okay to just be quiet and sit in silence and connect with your own self. There's something off here in this equation, because Netflix is entertainment, is outside noise. I don't have anything against Netflix. You can watch it all you want. But if you really don't even take the moment to do the introspection, to become self-aware of your own feelings, of, you know, how you navigate the world, then you really only allowing outside influence. You know, I think it's important. I think it's important to take time to be still, to be quiet, to meditate, to understand yourself, to learn about yourself, to do the self-love, and I think it will help you to navigate the world. I really believe that. I really believe that if you know yourself, this could be beginning of you knowing the world and understanding the world better. These are my closing remarks. I hope that you really enjoyed today's live stream. I totally enjoyed it. I feel uplifted. I feel like I can have a great day, and I can always remember that you got to put yourself first, not in a delusional way, as Shez was talking about, but in a nurturing way. And when you do that, when you put yourself first, you can be of better service to everybody else around you. You can be better service to your family. You can be service of your significant other. You can be better service and better individual for your community at large. That's what it seems to me. Oh my God, these comments are just going crazy. That's amazing. I think that's it. I think we covered it all. I think you all should feel self-love. I think you all being empowered to get to know yourself, to be empowered not to settle for less, that you want, and then be honest about what you want as well, not being unreasonable about it. Now you can go on and have an amazing weekend. You can apply this knowledge. Don't let this knowledge die in your head. Put it in practice. If you took some notes, if you haven't taken some notes, rewatch some of these things that resonated with you. Take some notes. Write one or two things out. Put it in practice. Don't knock it till you try it. Make it practical. Don't let this be just 2 hours of Saturday that will be gone forever. Take 1 or 2 things and make them try. I don't want to say make them part of your life, but at least try. Try to incorporate something into your life. Something that resonated with you. It's not my place to tell you what it is. I did mention meditation. It's more of a basic suggestion, you know, something to try. But if there's something that resonated with you from this live stream, write it out. Put it in practice. Try it out. Don't let it to be only a video. Make it part of your journey. My friends, with that being said, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Much, much love to every single one of you. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the super chats. I appreciate your support. It means the world to me. I'll be seeing you soon. Have an amazing weekend. Put yourself first. Love yourself. Love others. It starts with you. It starts with you. Have a wonderful day. See you later.